You're like, how fast does it go? So yeah, if you could join that classroom, like I said, I'm just going to show quickly an assignment and how to collaborate on a Google Slides and some of the different sharing capabilities in Classroom or in Slides. And then also one of the innovation challenges from September was a gallery walk, which is an AVID strategy, and so that's the direction I'm taking with my master's trainings, is in integrating AVID and technology, and so trying to, get both of those out of there for you guys. So I'm going to go to that classroom now, and when you go to create the assignment, how many of you, by show of hands, use Classroom daily? So the majority of us, that's awesome. I like to hear that. Some of you may have made that shift when we lost, what was it? E-Backpack, yes. So some of you kind of were forced into Classroom a little bit, and I hope you're finding some joy with it. I know it's not E-Backpack if that's what you're used to, but I do think that the kids like it, and they're getting used to it. So when it comes time to create your assignment, you'll hit your Create Assignment button. And so I'm going to just name this 10-9 PLC Collab. Adjust your points as needed. Due date is today. Okay, so when I go to my Google Classroom to add this, I've looked at a lot of files since then. It's going to look at what your recent files are. I'm going to do this gallery walk with Google Slides and say Add. And so the three options that we have is students can view the file. That's just they can look at it. They can't do anything with it. If they want to do their own thing with it, they would have to make a copy, which there's another option that makes them not have to do that. But all they're doing is looking at the file. This might be uploaded your presentation. You have a PowerPoint that coordinates with one of your topics, something along those, just a file that they need to have access to with just general information. Students can edit. That's the option I'm going to choose. That means that all of you, once I hit post on this assignment, you'll be able to see it and you'll all be able to get into it and edit it. And this is the option that you would want to choose if you choose to do the tic-tac-toe thing. The students can collaborate on a Google Slides together. You're going to want to select students can edit. If you did make a copy for each student, that would just be each student would get an individual copy. It already has their name attached to it. When they go to turn it in, they can edit the slides as needed, and all they have to do is push turn in because it's already attached to the assignment. So I use that a lot of times if I'm posting a rubric. I'll say make a copy for every student. The student isn't editing the rubric, I am, but then at least that rubric is there attached, and I go and edit the rubric, and then they have it right there, and there's not anything extra I have to print or do anything with. So I'm going to say students can edit the file and assign that, and then you should be seeing that assignment pop up on your classroom. Should be at the very top because I didn't assign it a topic or anything along those lines. So you're going to see that gallery walk, and this is how typically when I do this, I have students, I just give them the quick instructions there and then obviously further clarify in class. I use this a lot of times in my Photoshop class to have students quickly show off their artwork. And so they'll go and upload their JPEGs. So if you have students creating an art, they could take a picture of their art and put it here. Then you have it in one place. You don't have a bunch of files to go through. If they're doing, I know some of those one-pagers we talked about with the AVID strategies, they just need to get some information, a jigsaw together. You could use it that way too. I'm going to show you an example of how my Photoshop kids might use this. So I would just tell them to create a new slide, and it gets a little crazy. So I kind of tell everyone, okay, everyone hit create a new slide, and then just pause. Don't click anywhere else, because then there's 25 slides created, and wherever they're highlighted, that's going to be their slide that they can start editing. Because if they start kind of clicking around, then things get a little chaotic, but they get the hang of it soon enough. And then I ask them to just add their image, and then when I tell them we're going to do this Oreo critique, which I think kind of helps with goes along with that gallery walk concept, where students are critiquing or looking at each other's work and evaluating and adding some value to it. And so an example of that would be, and then I put in there the instructions for an Oreo critique. You guys ever heard of them? I know Nate has because he does the Fort Hays classes. They are just layer 1, something good or positive about the work. Layer 2 is something that they could maybe improve on. for the next time that they do it, or if you're giving them, it's kind of an evaluation process. And then layer 3 is just another something positive. And I do have to clarify phrases like, it's cool, great job, that's rad. Those sorts of things aren't really adding value to their presentation. And so asking them to maybe get a little further into it. And they do struggle with that, especially, and you're going to see some of the comments. They struggle at first. This was the first time I had done it with them, the Oreo piece. They struggle a little bit just because they're not used to having to really add some extra value that way. And so an example of how I would do this, you guys can play with this if you'd like. Just for time's sake, I'm going to show you. This was an example. The students had to take a painting off the internet, a famous painting or a painting they just liked, and they had to forge it in Photoshop. And so students went in and they put the original on the left and then their kind of the before and after piece for some of their artwork. And so how I had them do the gallery walk, instead of like sticky notes on a wall, I had them go in the speaker's notes down below, and you can drag those up here, and type their comments here. And so then the students, then I had that one place. It wasn't, you can add like a comment. I just thought this was cleaner for me. They had to make sure they put their name here first so that I knew what to grade on those comments. But I like using the speaker's note a lot for that sort of thing, and then it doesn't clutter up everything that's going on up here. And then what I did is I just printed that document out so that I could quickly grade it and mark those down. So the other thing that I want to show you, because some of you wonder, like, well, how do I know who did what? How do I know when that happened? Well, I had this deleted, who did it type thing. That's sometimes an issue that happens in classroom or with collaborating on documents when you have 25 kids or 30 kids in a room. If you see right here, it says kind of the saved. It's kind of squished because of the screen. But over here next to help, you'll be able to click that, and you can go in and see exactly who did what and who was working on it. It's coordinated by color. And so if I actually expand that, then I can see like Matt Hernandez made a change on September 16th at 11:23. And it's usually pretty good about catching those changes fairly quickly. Sometimes if there's a lot going on at one, you have 30 kids all typing at one time, it may not keep up with all of that. But for the most part, it does a good job of catching who's doing what. And you can kind of see from this view what students are doing in the moment. And so that's something that's nice as well. The last thing that I just wanted to show you really quick. So what I'm doing as the teacher when I'm watching them kind of hop around and talk about each other's work and say, oh, that was really cool, how'd you do that? Is I go to this grid view that's down in the lower left-hand corner, and then I can see exactly who's on what slide. I'm going to zoom that out a little bit. I can kind of see who's hopping around on what slide and who's hanging out because their little initials will show up in the corner there. And I might have students vote that way. I might say, okay, go to your favorite one and vote that way, and then it's just a quick way that I can gauge, well, Carson has 10 people hanging out on his slide, so they must really like his type thing. But that's usually where I'm hanging out, just so I can kind of see who is where in there while they're hanging out there. So that's all I really had, was just quickly going over that. I didn't have a ton of time, and I didn't want to take up a ton of your time. Do you have any questions about the collaborating on the Google's part on slides? That is the tic-tac-toe. I don't know if it could count as 2 birds, 1 stone with doing collaborating and the gallery walk piece. So you kind of get double the work there, or double the reward. Yes, sir.
How did my peers add their image to the slides they're looking at, which was your direction number 2, add your image?
So if you are in this document, let's just say, and I hit create a new slide, I'm going to go to insert image, and then from there, depending on where it's stored, if it's directly on their machine, if it's on their Google Drive, they should be able to insert that.
Are you in Google Slides?
Well, I thought I was. I'm looking at the slide presentation. I'm watching you guys come and go from page to page to page.
So if you
But I'm
hit,
not
sorry,
here,
create a
apparently.
create a new slide, you're in there. So you just,
So the only
the
way to
plus
get
sign.
that to happen is to make a slide?
You have to create your own slide.
Ah.
So then each student, and then I ask the students to put their name on there too, so that I know who I'm looking at.
Okay, so whatever image I add to here,
Mm-hmm.
can I even do that?
You can't. You'd have to pull something off your
Okay.
Google Drive.
All right.
So let's say that you have them create a document, they're writing a quick poem or something along those lines, but you still all want it in one quick place. You could always have them take a screenshot of their document and upload that screenshot as well, if it's more of a Word thing versus the art thing. Any other questions? Can I borrow your iPad real quick? There's just one bonus thing that it has nothing to do with what I'm showing you, but it has to do with Classroom. And I'm not going to take the time to connect it really quick. If you are in Classroom and it's only on the iPad, this is one feature that the computer does not have. If you go to the People tab, up in the upper, it'd be your right-hand corner. There's 3 or 4 squares, then one kind of is random. This is a random student selector. So like instead of drawing sticks or doing something like that. I don't know if you knew about that. I just had seen it on Twitter the other day, and I was like, wow, I didn't even realize that was there, because I very rarely use the iPad app.
It has to be a class we own.
Yeah, a class we own, sorry, not the class that you joined.
Yeah, I figured that.
So as a teacher, you have that option if you're on your iPad, and then it just randomly selects students for you. You can say call later, or if they're absent, and then it kind of categorizes those, and it lets you know when you've picked all the students in your class. So it's kind of a nice feature so that if you are trying to mix things up and not do a better job, like me, I have a bad habit of sometimes calling on the same kind of group of students. It's an easy habit to get into. This helps me mix things up a little bit. So I wanted to just show that to you. That was like a bonus feature for you. Okay. Do we have any questions? Any other? I am going to try to do one more quick presentation again, just something AVID related that you can integrate tech with. We don't have very many PLC dates in the very near future, so it might just be an email, hey, 7th hour, if you want to come hang out with me for 15 minutes and learn this, feel free to do that. So, okay? All right. Thank you guys for